The ropes bit into Kofi's wrists, cutting off circulation. He'd been tied to this baobab tree for 6 hours now, the afternoon sun baking him alive, his throat so dry he could barely swallow. This was how he was going to die. Alone in the Tanzanian bush, executed by his own people for a crime he didn't commit. The village council had been clear: theft from the community storehouse meant death. And someone had planted stolen grain in Kofi's hut. Someone who wanted him gone, wanted his land, wanted revenge for some perceived slight. Kofi had protested his innocence, begged for a trial, for time to prove someone had framed him. But the evidence was damning, and the council elder who hated him most had pushed for immediate punishment. So they'd brought him here, to the killing tree, the place where the village had executed criminals for generations. They'd tied him up and left him. The sentence was simple: let nature decide. If the lions found him first, it was God's judgment. If he somehow survived 3 days, they'd reconsider his case. But no one survived 3 days tied to the killing tree. Kofi had heard the stories. Lions, hyenas, leopards, they all passed through this area. A helpless human was easy prey. He was trying to work the ropes loose when he heard it. The sound that made his blood freeze. A lion's cough. Close, maybe 50 meters away. Kofi's heart hammered against his ribs. He pulled frantically at the ropes, but they were tied by men who knew their knots. His hands were already numb from restricted blood flow. The coughing came closer. Then he saw him, a massive male lion with a thick mane, emerging from the tall grass, moving with that casual power that apex predators have. The lion stopped 20 meters away, head raised, testing the air. His amber eyes locked onto Kofi. Kofi forced himself to stay still. Maybe if he didn't move, didn't draw attention. But that was stupid. He was tied to a tree. He smelled like fear and sweat and desperation. There was no hiding from this. The lion began walking toward him. Slowly, deliberately. Each massive paw hitting the ground with a soft thud that sounded like a death march. Kofi's mind raced through everything he knew about lions. Don't run. Impossible, he was tied up. Don't show fear. Too late, he was terrified. Fight back. With what? His hands were bound. He was going to die. Right here. Right now. The lion stopped 3 meters away, close enough that Kofi could see the individual hairs in his mane, the old scars on his face, the intelligence in those predatory eyes. Kofi closed his eyes and started praying in Swahili, asking God for a quick death, asking forgiveness for sins he didn't even remember committing. He heard the lion move closer, felt hot breath on his face, smelled the carnivore scent of meat and blood. This was it. And then something happened that made absolutely no sense. The lion didn't bite, didn't claw. Instead, Kofi felt something wet and rough drag across his face. The lion was licking him? Kofi's eyes snapped open. The lion was right there, massive head level with Kofi's face, and he was licking the sweat and dirt from Kofi's cheek the way a cat grooms another cat. What are you doing? Kofi whispered, his voice barely working. The lion pulled back slightly, tilted his head, and made a sound. A soft chuffing noise that Kofi recognized as the friendly greeting lions give to family members. Then the lion did something even more impossible. He began biting at the ropes around Kofi's wrists. Not attacking Kofi. Attacking the ropes. Before we continue, make sure to hit like and subscribe. Where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. Now let me tell you the shocking truth about why this lion was trying to free a condemned man. Kofi watched in stunned disbelief as the lion worked at the ropes with his teeth. The huge incisors that could crush bone were being used with surprising precision, pulling at the knots, gnawing at the fibers. I'm hallucinating, Kofi muttered. I'm dying of heat stroke and this isn't real. But the lion was real. The sensation of rope fibers snapping under the pressure of those massive jaws was real. And after 5 minutes of focused effort, one of the ropes binding Kofi's right wrist suddenly gave way. Kofi's arm fell free, numb and useless, pins and needles shooting through it as blood flow returned. The lion immediately moved to the left wrist, working at those ropes with the same patient determination. Why are you helping me? Kofi asked, his voice cracking. Lions don't, you don't do this. This isn't possible. The lion paused, looked at Kofi with those intelligent amber eyes, and Kofi could have sworn he saw recognition there. Not just awareness. Recognition. Like this lion knew him. But that was impossible. Kofi had never worked with lions, never rescued one, never had any contact with, and then a memory hit him. 3 years ago. Not here, but in a village 50 kilometers away where he'd been visiting relatives. A young male lion, maybe 2 years old, caught in a poacher's wire snare. The wire had been cutting into his neck, slowly strangling him. The lion had been too weak to fight. Kofi had been walking through the bush and heard the strangled breathing. He'd found the lion, seen the wire embedded deep, and made a choice that everyone said was suicidal. He'd approached the dying lion with a knife and cut the wire free. The lion had been too weak to even lift his head. Kofi had stayed with him for an hour, bringing water in his cupped hands, letting the lion lap it up, talking to him in Swahili, telling him he was going to be okay. Eventually, the lion had gained enough strength to stand. He'd looked at Kofi for a long moment, made that same soft chuffing sound and walked away. Kofi had never told anyone. Helping a lion was foolish. Lions were dangerous, they killed livestock, they were the enemy. His relatives would have thought he was crazy. But now, looking at this lion's face, seeing the distinctive scar pattern on his neck, exactly where a wire snare would leave marks, Kofi understood. "It's you," he whispered. "You're the one I saved. You remember me." The second rope snapped. Both of Kofi's hands were free now. The lion moved to the ropes around Kofi's torso, working with that same patient determination. Tears streamed down Kofi's face. "I'm supposed to die here. My own people condemned me. But you came back." 10 minutes later, all the ropes were severed. Kofi collapsed to the ground, his legs too numb to support him. He lay there trying to get circulation back, trying to process what had just happened. The lion lay down beside him. Not aggressive. Protective. Like a guardian watching over someone vulnerable. "I can't go back to the village," Kofi said, talking to the lion because there was no one else. "If I return, they'll just kill me properly this time. I'm as good as dead." The lion stood up and walked a few meters away, then looked back at Kofi. That gesture again. "Follow me. You want me to come with you?" The lion chuffed and began walking. Kofi had no other options. He couldn't return to his village, they'd wanted him dead. He had no food, no water, no shelter. Following a lion seemed insane, but dying alone seemed worse. So he followed. The lion led him through the bush for over an hour, moving at a pace Kofi could manage despite his weakened state. They climbed a rocky outcrop, wound through thorny scrub, crossed a dried riverbed. Finally, they reached a small cave entrance, partially hidden by overhanging rock. The lion walked inside. After a moment's hesitation, Kofi followed. The cave was larger than it looked from outside, maybe 4 meters deep, protected from sun and wind. And in the back corner was something that made Kofi's eyes widen. A pile of fresh meat. A dead impala, recently killed, still warm. The lion had already eaten. Kofi could see blood on his muzzle. But there was plenty left. The lion gestured toward the meat with his nose, then settled down near the cave entrance. "You're safe here." Kofi stared at the scene, his mind struggling to accept what was happening. A lion had freed him from execution, led him to shelter, and was now offering him food. "This can't be real," Kofi said for the third time. But his stomach was cramping with hunger. His body was shutting down from dehydration and heat. Real or not, he needed food and water to survive. There was a small pool of rainwater collected in a depression in the cave floor, probably from a recent storm. Kofi drank deeply, the water tasting like salvation. Then, using a sharp rock, he cut meat from the impala carcass and forced himself to eat it raw. It was the best meal of his life. He slept for hours, his body finally giving in to exhaustion. When he woke, it was night. The lion was still there, silhouetted in the cave entrance, watching the darkness outside. Standing guard. "Why are you doing this?" Kofi asked quietly. "I saved you once, 3 years ago. That deserves maybe. I don't know, you not eating me. But this? Freeing me, feeding me, protecting me? This is more than repaying a debt." The lion turned his head, and in the moonlight, Kofi saw something in those eyes that looked remarkably like determination. Like purpose. Maybe for lions, saving a life created a permanent bond. Maybe this lion had remembered Kofi every day for 3 years, had learned his scent so well he recognized it immediately. Maybe when he'd found Kofi tied to that tree, the killing tree that every animal in the region knew meant helpless prey, he'd seen not a meal, but family in danger. Over the next 3 days, the pattern continued. The lion would leave at night to hunt. He'd return with kills, enough for both of them. He'd keep watch while Kofi slept. He'd lead Kofi to water sources when needed. Kofi's strength returned. His mind cleared. And he began to understand something that changed his entire worldview. Animals weren't the mindless creatures humans assumed them to be. This lion was making choices based on memory, gratitude, and what looked remarkably like compassion. He was problem-solving, protecting, providing for someone who'd once helped him. This was intelligence. This was emotion. This was family. On the 4th day, human voices echoed through the bush. Kofi tensed, terrified it was a hunting party from his village looking to finish the job. The lion heard them too. He positioned himself at the cave entrance, his body blocking anyone from entering, a low growl rumbling in his chest. But the voices weren't hostile. They were calling Kofi's name. Concerned voices. Familiar voices. Kofi cautiously emerged from the cave. The lion stayed close, still protective. A group of 5 men appeared through the scrub, led by Mama Zawadi, the village healer, and Baraka, Kofi's childhood friend. "Kofi!" Baraka shouted, relief flooding his face. "You're alive." "Stay back," Kofi warned. "The lion?" "We know about the lion," Mama Zawadi interrupted, approaching slowly with her hands visible. "Baraka told us what he saw." "What do you mean?" Baraka stepped forward. "I've been tracking you for 3 days. I saw the lion free you from the tree. I saw him lead you away. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, so I followed at a distance. Watched him feed you. Protect you." His voice shook. "Kofi, I've lived near lions my whole life. What I witnessed, it's not possible. But it happened." "I don't understand," Kofi said. "Why are you here?" "The council condemned me." "The council was wrong," Mama Zawadi said firmly. "The night after you were taken, Juma's wife got drunk and confessed. It was her husband who stole the grain and planted it in your hut. Juma wanted your land for his son. He convinced the council to execute you quickly before anyone could investigate properly." "Juma has been arrested," Baraka added. "The council is ashamed. They want you to come home. They want to make this right." Kofi felt his legs go weak. He wasn't a criminal. His name was cleared. He could go home. But he looked at the lion, who had saved him when his own people had condemned him. "I need to do something first," Kofi said. He approached the lion slowly, knelt down, and placed both hands on the massive head. "Thank you. You saved my life. You protected me. You gave me shelter and food when I had nothing." His voice broke. "I will never forget what you did. Never." The lion pressed his head against Kofi's chest and made that soft chuffing sound. Mama Zawadi watched with tears streaming down her weathered face. "In 70 years, I have never seen such a thing. The bond between you and this lion, it's sacred." Kofi stood and stepped back. The lion watched him for a long moment, then turned and walked back into the cave. His duty was done. The human was safe now, returned to his own kind. Kofi returned to the village as a changed man. The council publicly apologized. Juma was exiled. Kofi's land and belongings were returned. But Kofi could never look at lions the same way again. He became an advocate for lion conservation, working with wildlife organizations, teaching people that these creatures were far more intelligent and emotional than anyone realized. He returned to the cave once a month, bringing offerings of meat, leaving them at the entrance. Sometimes he'd see the lion at a distance, watching, acknowledging, remembering. The lion never approached the village, never threatened livestock. It was as if an unspoken agreement existed. Kofi protected the lion's reputation among humans, and the lion respected Kofi's community. 2 years after the rescue, researchers from the Tanzania Wildlife Research Institute heard Kofi's story and came to investigate. They set up camera traps throughout the area. What they captured was extraordinary. The lion, they called him Wokovu, Swahili for savior, showed highly unusual behavior around humans. He'd observe them from a distance, but never with predatory intent. When other lions in the region attacked livestock, Wokovu's territory was conspicuously peaceful. Dr. Bahati, lead researcher, reviewed the footage and Kofi's testimony. This challenges everything we understand about lion cognition and memory. Wokovu recognized Kofi after 3 years. He remembered the act of rescue and made a conscious decision to reciprocate. He provided extended care, food, shelter, protection, for days. This isn't instinct. This is complex reasoning and emotional bonding. The story spread internationally. The lion who freed a condemned man became headlines worldwide. But Kofi refused to profit from it. Instead, he used the attention to raise funds for wildlife conservation. People want to kill lions because they see them as threats, Kofi told reporters. But Wokovu proved they're capable of compassion, memory, gratitude. If we treated them with the same respect they're capable of showing us, there'd be no conflict. Today, 5 years later, Wokovu is still occasionally spotted in the region. He's estimated to be about 10 years old now, still powerful, still protective of his territory. And Kofi still visits the cave once a month. He sits outside and talks to the empty space, knowing that somewhere, Wokovu is listening. I was condemned to death by my own people, Kofi says. Judged, tied to a tree, left to die. But a lion, a creature we call a mindless killer, saw past all that. He saw someone who'd once helped him, and he returned that help 1,000 times over. He pauses, looking out at the vast African bush. Maybe we should ask ourselves, if a lion can show mercy, gratitude, and compassion, what does that say about us when we don't? If this story moved you, share it. Tell us in the comments. Have you ever been saved by someone or something you never expected? Hit like and subscribe for more stories that prove intelligence and compassion exist across all species, that challenge our assumptions about who can be a hero, and that remind us the line between human and animal is far thinner than we think. Because somewhere in Tanzania, a man walks free because a lion remembered a kindness, and that lion taught the world that sometimes the most savage-looking creatures have the most civilized hearts. Sometimes the condemned are innocent. Sometimes the predator is the protector. And sometimes the creature we fear most becomes the friend who saves us when everyone else has walked away.